Right, so I'm back, and yet again with some league predictions. This is the last of the top 5 leagues. I know all 5 of the leagues have already started, and of course I'm going to be doing the Serie A as the title suggests, but I know it's already started. I know the first game week has already gone, and I know I'm super late to this, but I still want to put out my predictions because I feel like, you know, it's something that I missed out last season, so I want to do it this season. I want to do all 5 league predictions. A little late, but let's just get straight into it. In 20th, I have the newly promoted side, Cremonense. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, that team, unfortunately, I do have them finishing in 20th. I don't really see their squad being able to match the levels of this top flight. Maybe they can prove me wrong, but I just really don't see it, so that's why I have them at the bottom of the league. Very sorry to them, but yeah, I have them finishing in 20th, the very bottom of the league. In 19th, I have another newly promoted side in Lecce, or Lech. I think it's pronounced Lecce. But yeah, I don't, again, it's the same thing that I have for the first squad that I mentioned earlier. I just don't really see them having a squad that's ready to fight in the top flight, at least not yet. I don't see that happening just yet, so that's why I have them finishing in 19th in relegation zone and getting back down, or going back down to the second division. But good luck to Lecce. Maybe they can prove me wrong, but I just see them in 19th. In 18th, in the last relegation spot, is a side that really should have been relegated last season, but they were not, and I have Salernitana. I know they have the likes of Frank Ribery and more great players, but I don't really see that happening. I don't really see them staying in this first division. I know Frank Ribery is a fantastic player, but he is a little older. He's quite a bit of a veteran now, and yeah, I know they finished in 17th last season, just escaped relegation, but this season they won't be able to escape it, and they'll finish in 18th. In 17th, I have a side that also nearly escaped relegation, or just barely escaped relegation in Spezia. They finished in 16th last season, and I think they'll just escape relegation yet again in 17th place for this season. So I have this team finishing in 17th. I know it's just a little bit lower, but it's another side that I think doesn't have the quality to be able to fight for, you know, like automatic survival or safe survival in this first division, because their side is great and they can pull off some upsets, but I just don't see it happening enough for them to, you know, be mid-table or survive comfortably. So that's why I have them finishing in 17th. In 16th, I have Sampdoria. I know Sampdoria had some pretty good seasons in the past, but now they've struggled a lot. They finished in 15th last season, so I'm dropping them down one more place, just like I did to Salernitana and Spezia before. But yeah, I don't see them doing too well. I think they'll do just a little bit worse. I know they still have Cavallera, and maybe he can pull off some miracle for them, but I don't see it happening, at least not this season. Maybe some other player can prove me wrong, but they also lost the likes of Mikhail Damsgaard to Brentford, so that will hinder their performance in the league. So I think Sampdoria will definitely struggle this season. In 15th, I have Bologna, or I think that's how you pronounce it. They are a pretty good side. They have some pretty good players like Nicolas Dominguez, Arnautovic, and many more players, but I don't see them doing too well. They finished in 13th last season, and although they have a pretty good side, I don't see them, you know, pushing on to get better than 13th. I think maybe 13th could be their highest point, but I think they'll ultimately finish in 15th. I think they'll do somewhat decent towards the middle of the season, but just a little bit and just drop off completely, or maybe just start off pretty badly, or just be quite terrible and maybe get into the relegation zone. But I don't see it happening. I see them finishing in 15th. In 14th, I have the last newly promoted side in Monza. I know this team may not seem like much, but I know they're trying to build an institution, and I know it seems like it's absolutely amazing. They were linked to the likes of Luis Suarez at some point, to many other big veterans of the sport, but they're still pretty good players. I know that I have some great players. I can't think of any at the moment right now, but I know that they're trying to build something great at this club, and I think they'll be able to do it. And in their first year, I think they'll comfortably survive, finishing in 14th, maybe even a little higher, but I think they could definitely do it and, you know, become a staple in this Italian league. In 13th, I have Empoli. Empoli finished in 14th last season, so I have them finishing a little bit ahead of that, and mostly it's just because I feel like Empoli are just that kind of like comfortable side that won't really slip up too much. They'll slip up a little bit, but not enough for them to be in a relegation fight. Maybe they'll be in a relegation fight for a little bit, but then they'll ultimately finish in 13th, you know, get enough wins and get enough draws to be able to finish comfortably in the 13th position. In 12th, I have Hellas Verona. I think Verona are a great side. I think they can definitely push on to be, you know, a little bit higher than mid-table. They finished in 9th last season, and I think that was a great finish for them. I think that's a little too high than what I expect for them this season, obviously, because I'm putting them in 12th. But yeah, hopefully they can finish a little bit higher than that, but I don't really see that happening. I think the other sides that are coming next are just a little bit better and will perform better in the league. In 11th, I have Torino. They finished in 10th last season, so I'm dropping them down another place, and I think they'll just finish off the bottom half of the table and finishing in 11th. I know they have a great side, but they did lose out on their main striker, Andrea Bellotti. I believe he's going to AS Roma, so that this is a definitely big pickup for Roma, but big loss for Torino. So we'll see who replaces him, or if they're even going to replace him. But anyways, push on Torino, and maybe he'll finish higher than where I placed you. In 10th, I have Udinese. They're a great side, and I know they lost the likes of Rodrigo de Paul. That was 2 seasons ago, but I still think that last season they struggled because they lost their main player. But now that they're able to focus a little bit more on the league, and they're able to, you know, like recuperate from losing their best player, I think they'll do a little bit better. Hence why I have them finishing in 10th. That's the start of the, you know, top half of the table, finishing at the very middle of the table. Finishing in 9th for me is Sassuolo. I know they're a great side. They have the likes of Domenico Berardi, and they did lose out on Scamacca. He has left to West Ham, and they could lose out on Raspadori, but I still think they have a fantastic side. I think they could push on. You know, they were definitely in the race for European football, but they were unable to do it last season. Maybe they could push on this season, but I think they won't be able to make it. I think they'll be just a few points away from European places, so that's why I have them finishing in 9th. In 8th, I have Fiorentina. They finished in 7th last season, which means that they will have Europa Conference League this season, so it will be a little bit difficult for them to focus on another competition, and I think their squad depth isn't as good as it needs to be able to push hard for a lot of competitions. So I think they'll definitely fall off a little bit in the league, hence why I have them finishing in 8th, which means they won't qualify for any European football for next season. But, you know, I think they can definitely do a pretty good job, and, you know, I think 8th is a respectable finish for Fiorentina. Plus, I have a little soft spot for them. Speaking of no European competition, I went for this place. It's in 7th. 7th place means no European competition because they did change it, hence why I have Lazio. That's not why I have Lazio. I have Lazio here mostly because they are going to be focused on the Europa League. They did make Europa League qualification. They finished in 5th place last season, so they have Europa League and the league plus the cup, and it'll be tough for them to, you know, focus on everything all at once. Europa League is definitely very tough competition, and I think they'll progress quite far in it, so that's why I think they'll, you know, fall off towards the middle of the season, you know, to get enough points to reach top 6 in this league, so that's why I have them finishing in 7th. Qualifying for a Europa Conference League qualification spot in 6th place, I have Atalanta. They finished in 8th last season, which means they are in no European competition this year, which means that they'll be able to focus on the league and the cup, just solely focused on that, and I think they'll focus on the league a lot more, and I think they'll definitely push on, maybe push for top 4, but ultimately fall a little bit short and finish in 6th place. They have a fantastic squad with the likes of Duvan Zapata and so many other players, but I definitely think that this side can definitely push on like they have been for the past few seasons. So that's why 8th is it was kind of confusing for me, but I mean, being able to focus just on the league, I think they'll be able to, you know, push hard for the league and definitely get a European Conference League qualification spot. Finishing in 5th, qualifying for the only Europa League spot in this league, I have Napoli. It hurts me to say it because there is a Mexican in the squad, of course. Chucky Lozano, arguably the best Mexican player at the moment, and he had a pretty good start to the season. He got an assist and played overall pretty well in their first game where they won 5-2, but still, I still feel like Napoli will struggle due to their loss of Kalidou Koulibaly. That is a humongous loss to their backline, and I don't think that they've replaced well, at least not to the same quality as Koulibaly is. Of course, he went to Chelsea, and they will struggle with that backline. I know their backline is still pretty solid, and they did bring in another center back to replace Koulibaly, but still, I don't see it to the same level, so I feel like they'll concede a little more goals, which will make them fall off from, I believe, 3rd place down to 5th place. So just outside of the top 4. It hurts me to say, but there you are, Napoli. So top 4 now, I have a very controversial pick, arguably my most controversial pick of this whole thing. In 4th place, just making Champions League, I have AC Milan. I know they won the Scudetto last season. They won the entire league. I predicted them to win the entire league. Not in a video, but just outside of a video. I predicted them to win it, and they did. But I see them facing a lot tough. Their opponents for the league will definitely be a lot tougher. It'll be much more difficult for them to win it. I think Inter was in a transitional season. I think Juve was in a transitional season, and same with Roma, which are the 3 remaining sides, of course, which I have them placed in the top 3. And now I know AC Milan are a fantastic side. They have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He is absolutely amazing. They have Giroud, and I know they brought in some great talent. I know they still have Rafael Leao, who's just always improving, and they brought in Charles de Ketelaere, a player that I think has a lot of talent that can definitely help out the squad. But I feel like they'll struggle a little more. I think they'll get a lot of points, and I think they'll push for the title. I think this will be the closest race we'll ever see in the Serie A title, or maybe not ever, but in recent time. And I think top 4 will definitely be within a point of one another, and I think this league will be the closest for the title race. I think it'll go all the way to the last day of the season, where any of the top 4 will switch positions at the last minute. But anyways, I have AC Milan finishing 4th. I'm sorry, AC Milan. I love you guys, and I hope you guys can do well, and I hope you guys can win it again, but I don't see it happening, at least not this season. But maybe they can push further in the Champions League than they did last season. And 3rd, I have AS Roma. Now, at first, I was really contemplating whether I should put them in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I didn't want them any lower than 3rd, because I felt like Jose Mourinho, he's at the helm, he has a fantastic squad, he brought in Paulo Dybala, and he'll push on and maybe get them to the title. I was this close. I had them originally. My first original prediction was AS Roma at the very top, but I have dropped them down mostly because I realized how their depth isn't as good as I thought it was. They're especially their depth in defense. So their defense is pretty solid. It's really good. Chris Smalling, Mancini, and so many others, but they don't have too many players, at least, especially when they play a back 3. They play a back 3, and their center backs options, there's only like 4 or 5 of them max. And if you play a back 3, you kind of need a little more depth there. And they are in the Europa League. They finished in 6th last season, so it will be a little bit tight for them, and it will be tough for them to push hard for that for the Scudetto. I think they'll push for it. I think they'll be within a few points. They'll push all the way to the last day of the season, but ultimately they fall off and just finish in 3rd place. In 2nd place, I have either Juventus or Inter Milan. Now, I know both teams are absolutely fantastic. They both recruited really well. Let's start off with Juve. We'll see who I have in 1st and who I have in 2nd. But we'll start off with Juventus. They brought in the likes of Angel Di Maria, who honestly, he's performed really well. I believe he got a goal in his first ever game, his first official game, and he was absolutely fantastic in the preseason, especially up against Barcelona. I watched that game. Di Maria was causing problems the entire time. Plus, Moise Kean is finally firing. He's doing pretty well. I know they did lose 4-0 to Atletico Madrid in the preseason tournament, or in a preseason game, but still, that's besides the point. They brought in Bremer. They lost the leg, but it's okay. Bremer, I feel like, is still a pretty good squad player, and he could definitely improve. He was a Torino center back, and now he's a Juve center back. That's really good for him. I feel like their weakest point is their fullbacks, but I mean, their fullbacks isn't that important, so that's why I feel like what they're really lacking is maybe a little more squad depth in the middle, mostly because Paul Pogba was brought back, but he was injured, and he won't be back until the start of 2023, so it will be a little bit more difficult for them, but I think they can definitely push on for the title, but we'll see who I have in first. Now, Inter Milan. Inter Milan, I think they're absolutely fantastic. They brought in Romelu Lukaku on loan, which is absolutely fantastic. And they didn't really lose anyone key to them. You know, they still have Nicolo Barella, they have Alessandro Bastoni, they have Brozovic, and they still have Lautaro Martinez. They have a fantastic side, and I think they'll definitely push on. I know they lost Ivan Perisic, but to me, that's not too much of a big loss. I know Perisic is a fantastic player, but he's getting a little older, and I feel like he would suit a little better for Spurs, so I think it was great for him, and pretty good for Inter Milan as well. So I think Inter Milan has been able to, you know, keep their squad depth pretty strong, and Lukaku is a great addition to their side, and I think he could definitely score the goals like he was in his first stint at Inter Milan. So that's why I actually have Inter Milan finishing it in first. Yes, I have Juventus in second. I know I'm wearing the jersey, but I have Juventus in second. They definitely improved from last season. Finished in fourth. They'll finish in second, push on for the title, but just end off in second at the very last minute. And I have Inter Milan winning the Scudetto title. So that was it. I know I didn't do any of the league awards because I feel like it's already started. And I feel like I'll be a little bit biased towards the players that have already scored and gotten assists. So I won't really say anything there. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe, and lates.